first up, my man Glen Kirshner. He's been doing the YouTube scene for a while. I'm somewhat new to his work, and I love it. I don't know how I missed him before. Here he is talking about a federal judge finding in their ruling that Trump bears responsibility for January 6th. If only he was the one on trial.
Well, friends, another federal judge just stated the obvious, that the insurrection was a Donald Trump production. Let's talk about that, because justice matters.
I do love his intro. I'm going to mute it, though, so I don't get hit with a copyright strike, just in case.
Hey all, Glen Kirshner here. So friends,
Hi,
I
Glenn.
spent a good part of today in federal district court in Washington, D.C., watching two trials. The Proud Boys seditious conspiracy trial. Members of that organization are on trial for trying to violently overthrow the government, trying to violently stop the certification of Joe Biden's election win. And I watched some of a second trial, which is part two of the Oath Keepers case. Remember that a group of Oath Keepers have already been convicted of a seditious conspiracy and other charges for their attack on the Capitol on January 6th. This is part two. This is a second group of Oath Keepers who are presently on trial. And
First of all, I really want to stress, this is a terrorist group. Like, we don't think of them, especially those of us who were around in the early 2000s. We don't think of them as terrorists in the, I suppose, classic sense. The way Americans tend to think of terrorists, or at least once upon a time did. But when he says Oath Keepers, it's no different than Taliban, ISIS. That's what we're talking about here.
I couldn't help but think to myself during the course of the day that I wouldn't be there, sitting in federal court watching these trials, had Donald Trump not told all of his supporters, his base, his lackeys, come to D.C. on January 6th will be wild. And had Donald Trump not then told them at the Stop the Steal pre-insurrection pep rally, you have to fight like hell or you won't have a country anymore. Now go to the Capitol and stop the steal. Stop the certification.
And the January 6th committee concurs, by the way.
And they did.
4 charges they recommended.
And what continues to
Still no
amaze
action
me,
from Garland,
confound me, disturb me, is that we have two co-equal branches of government who have been virtually yelling and screaming that Donald Trump is responsible for the insurrection. You have the judiciary, judge after judge, has been saying in their findings and in their opinions, this was a Donald Trump orchestration, in so many words. You have the legislative branch, the January 6th House Select Committee, yelling and screaming that Donald Trump is the one responsible for launching the attack on the Capitol. This was Donald Trump's insurrection. And yet you have the third branch of government, the executive branch, the Department of Justice, the only branch of the 3 branches of government that has the power to charge Donald Trump for the crimes that we all know he committed. And yet they don't.
Run by Merrick Garland. This man is going to go down in history as one of the weakest attorneys general we have ever had. I can just see moderate Democrats right now getting ready to build him a statue for the moment where he comes out and gives a press conference and says, Donald Trump bears responsibility for January 6th. and this is me saying it officially. We're not going to charge them because we feel like we can't build a case and blah, 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 blah. But I'm putting it on the record. They're gonna try to eat that up. The American people have had it. And I'm delighted to see that. But we got to organize. Let's let Glenn continue.
Executive branch, the Department of Justice, the FBI lags behind the other two co-equal branches of government who have been screaming from the rooftops the need to hold Donald Trump accountable for his crimes.
So have the American people.
And now it happened again today. Because today, another federal judge in Washington, D.C., this time Judge Colleen Kolar-Catelli, issued a written opinion in a case talking about why a particular defendant attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Let me set it up a little bit. Judge Kolar-Catelli, who I actually know fairly well professionally, I tried an arson case in front of her many years ago. I also handled a capital case, a death penalty case, in front of her involving the murder of an FBI task force member who was a Maryland state trooper. So I've had cases before Judge Kolar-Catelli. She's a fantastic judge, great jurist, fair, even-handed. And she actually tried a case sitting as the finder of fact. What do I mean by that? Well, there was a case involving a series of misdemeanor crimes for somebody who unlawfully entered the Capitol but didn't assault police officers. And in that misdemeanor case, the judge sat as the finder of fact. There was no jury. So sometimes you try a case to a judge. We call it a bench trial. And in felony cases, you try those cases to a jury.
It's a side note, totally. I don't understand this legal process as well. I have heard of it before. I believe the defendant has to waive their right to a jury trial. And I'm not sure why you would do that. But I'm sure there's a perfectly logical explanation. That said, that's explaining her involvement in this case.
So Judge Kolar-Catelli, was the finder of fact. She tried this case and made the decision on guilty or not guilty herself. And she issued a written opinion setting out her findings in the case after a 3-day trial.
I love the way this guy reads formal things. It is like a bedtime story to me.
I was first alerted to this today when I saw a tweet from my friend Kyle Cheney at Politico. And here's what he tweeted. Just in, federal judge delivers a January 6th guilty verdict for defendant Deneen McAndrew, but makes clear she, the judge, views McAndrew as having followed President Trump's instructions. Well, needless to say, when I saw that tweet from Kyle, I went and printed out Judge Kolar-Catelli's opinion in the case to see what she had said about this defendant following Trump's orders when she attacked the Capitol. And I want to read the opening salvo of the judge's opinion, the first 2 paragraphs, because I think it nicely frames what this defendant, Deneen McAndrew, did. And then I'm going to jump to the end of the opinion. It's an 18-page opinion, and read 2 short passages about what the evidence showed Trump's responsibility was. But first, here is the factual backdrop. Clad in a MAGA hat, wearing a red scarf, and wielding a Trump flag, the defendant, Deneen McAndrew, knew she was not permitted to be in or around the Capitol on January 6th, 20.
I'm sorry, I gotta jump in. The fact that we had a crowd of Trump supporters waving literally flags with the guy's name on it, replacing the American flag with those flags. The fact that we had people going directly from a speech he gave to overrun the Capitol. I don't know that you need any more evidence than that to literally have an indictment. It's insane to me how blatant crime can be as long and not be punished as long as it's a conservative doing it. It's insane to me. Oh, excuse me, a rich conservative. Ridiculous.
2021. That knowledge, like a snowball rolling down a ski slope, accumulated that day. Her suspicions undoubtedly started when, contrary to her testimony, in other words, the defendant testified and lied, in the opinion of the judge, contrary to her testimony, she passed area-closed signs affixed to strewn fencing. If she did not know at that time her presence at the Capitol grounds was unlawful, her awareness must have been stronger when she clambered over dismantled bike racks and snow fencing even closer to the Capitol building with their own area-closed signs. If, after seeing those signs, she did not know her presence was unlawful after those signs, then surely she knew she was unlawfully present when she encountered a line of armored Metropolitan Police Department officers marching past Capitol Police officers guarding the Capitol building behind bike racks affixed again with area-closed signs. Assuming, for the sake of argument, that she still did not know she was not permitted on Capitol grounds or in the Capitol building, she must have known when she arrived to the Upper West Terrace and met 4 individuals she testified she knew to have been pepper sprayed.
I do want to just point out the legal system has to give the benefit of the doubt to defendants. But that is taken too far culturally, I think. This group keeps saying, the J6 defendants keep saying, oh, we didn't know it was illegal. How could we have known it was illegal? What is laid out here is what every one of them encountered. Barricades, police saying you can't come in. There was scuffles with police, led by the Proud Boys. They knew. Of course they knew. They are not the ones I am most interested in. We do have to try these people, give them appropriate punishments, but this is all secondary to holding the organizers responsible. And it is to Merrick Garland's great dismay that the organizers are people he does not want to prosecute, as he has demonstrated by not doing his job, going into 3 years now.
Or to enter the realm of the fabulist, perhaps it was only when she entered the Capitol through a broken door, an emergency siren blaring. These signs, and others detailed below, undoubtedly endowed McAndrew with the knowledge that her presence and protest in the Capitol was unlawful. Nevertheless, she remained. And then, after the judge said the defendant's presence was part of the flood waters that drowned the Capitol in insurrection and destruction, Judge Kolar Catelli went on to say the following. At the Stop the Steal rally, then President Trump eponymously exhorted his supporters to, in fact, stop the steal by marching to the Capitol. Defendant marched to the Capitol, having followed then President Trump's instructions, which were in line with her stated desires. The court therefore finds that defendant intended her presence to be disruptive to congressional business.
So Recall, there we go. Recall this. You can be held, as she is right now, legally liable for following the order of a public official when that order is obviously illegal. Just exaggerate it to understand it. If the mayor of your town walks up to you and says, "Hey, go kill that guy," your reaction as a decent human being is going to be, "Okay, we got to get rid of this mayor." It's not going to be, "Oh, I guess I better go kill that guy," because that would be insane. Similarly, the judge here is finding, and I'm going to do some justice to Glen Kirshner. The judge here is finding that this woman broke the law. Of course she did. But she's also saying she broke the law at the behest of Donald Trump. The fact that she's going to prison now for this, but Donald Trump is not, is a failure of our country. It's a worldwide embarrassment. America has dropped so much in the eyes of the world because we are unable to hold together a democracy that has a fair justice system, which is frankly no democracy at all. It's the illusion of one. And the one good thing about Trump's time in the Oval Office is that it has made obvious the flaws in our system. I talk about all the time. I talk about Nixon, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and then Trump. All of them committed crimes while in office worthy of prison time, and none of them have faced consequences. The only difference about Trump is that it is so obvious that we cannot maintain the illusion of living in a free society anymore without holding him accountable.